Hello, and thank you for joining me again today for the Finding Hope After Loss podcast. I wanted to start by talking about an important point Kristin brings up in her interview, that there's not enough information given by doctors, or even just in general, about what exactly to expect when going through a miscarriage, or even what happens after a loss. I've heard so many people just being told, oh, you'll have a heavy period, and you can just try again. No mention of any of the other symptoms, the cramping, the contractions, delayed cycles, or the other things that can happen with a miscarriage or loss. A miscarriage is a traumatic experience for so many. We deserve to know what to expect and the things that we need to look out for. And there's so many that just don't talk about the possibility of them because they don't want to scare anyone. But then when it happens to us, we're left in the dark. We don't know what to expect from the experience. It makes us worry that what we're going through isn't what everybody else goes through. We all may experience a loss a little differently with different symptoms. Not every miscarriage is just a heavy period, and then we just move on. For those of us that have been through it, we are familiar with it. We can help share our experiences to help others who are going through it know just what to expect. If doctors won't educate us, then I feel like it's helpful for us to help educate each other. By sharing our stories, we can help others going through it as well. So today I am talking with Kristin, who shares her story about having 2 miscarriages after the birth of her 2 living children. She is now struggling with infertility and currently going through fertility treatment. Hello everyone, I am here today with Kristin. Kristin, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. My name is Kristin. I'm 41 years old. I live in the suburbs outside of Philadelphia. I've lived here my whole life. I am a mother of 2 children, and I am a mother to 2 angel babies. I've been married for 11 years, and I'm a stay-at-home mom right now. My husband and I are currently going through fertility, so that takes up a lot of time, appointments, and everything like that. Also, I guess if I have any spare time, in my spare time, I am at a lot of youth sports. My kids are in football, baseball, softball, track, so my weekends are pretty busy with that. So
it definitely sounds like you have a lot going on.
Yes. Very busy weekends.
So can you talk a little bit about your infertility and loss journey?
Sure. So like I said, I have 2 living children. My son is 11, my daughter is 9. Got pregnant with them easily, no problems, no complications, anything like that. My husband and I always talked about having a 3rd child, and then, time starts to get away and things happen. But in 2019, surprisingly, we became pregnant again with a 3rd. I was about 6 weeks along, and I started having a little bit of mild cramping and some spotting, but nothing, I guess, too concerning, because with my son, I had some spotting around 10 weeks, and with him, it was nothing. It was just old blood, and everything was fine. I called the doctors, and they brought me in, to check the levels, and they were going to bring me in the next day to make sure that everything was rising. And I went home, and I was resting. My daughter came home from preschool, and I got up to greet her at the door, and I felt the gush, and basically ran to the bathroom, and I had miscarried that baby. My husband and I tried for a little bit after that. Nothing too crazy, just, not preventing, I guess. And nothing ever happened. So we kind of just let it go. And then, so a few years later, so in 2022, it was in April of 2022. And at this point, I was 40 years old. So I figured that was kind of it. Again, I surprisingly found out that I was pregnant. I remember when I found out, obviously I was excited and happy, but then again, that fear came over me because of the past miscarriage. And I just remember telling him, like, I can't lose another one. So he said, we're going to go through this, and, everything will be fine. And I guess I was about 8 weeks or so, and I started again with some spotting and some bleeding, but nothing too crazy. I was due to go to my first OB appointment in a week. So I figured I'd just kind of let it go and see what happened. Excuse me. And again, the blood started to get a little heavier and everything like that. And some cramping, but nothing, again, out of the ordinary, I guess, with the first time, through the first trimester of pregnancy. But the morning of the appointment, I felt a lot more crampy. I was having more blood. But we went to the OB and I told her all my concerns, and they did the ultrasound, and, I swore there was going to be no heartbeat there, but there was a heartbeat. And she said it looked strong and the baby looked strong. And where I thought I was 9 weeks along, she said I was only measuring about 8 weeks. So she still didn't really see any concern. She said she didn't see it ending in a miscarriage. So we left. We were thrilled, relief. We went home. We rested. While I was resting, though, I started getting a lot of pain. And I swore it was a diverticulitis attack because I had had those before. So because I just went and she said everything looked great, not realizing later it was probably labor pain. Later on that afternoon, my husband had to leave. He had to go check something for my son's baseball team. And again, I got up to use the bathroom and felt the gush again. And I knew, and as soon as I went to the bathroom, I had miscarried. After that, my OB had said, if with the 2 miscarriages, if you want to try fertility specialist. So my husband and I, after a few months and everything and lots of talks, we decided let's give it one really good last try, especially with my age, since being 41 now, it's, you don't have much time. So we started that in September, and my doctor seems to think that I ovulate too late in my cycle, so then it affects the baby with implantation and all the hormone levels and everything like that. So but we're going there. We're starting that. We did Clomid for October, but it didn't really react well with me. So now we're going to hopefully in December try letrozole. So, but that's kind of where we're at with everything right now.
Hopefully that will help. I know I did Clomid too, and I didn't respond to that at all, and I had to do letrozole. So hopefully that's just a little extra boost that you need.
Yeah, exactly. And kind of just get me on track, hopefully, with ovulation and everything.
So why do you think it's important to talk about your story?
I feel like it's important because I feel like miscarriages and loss are still such kind of like a taboo subject. I think it puts people in a vulnerable place, and they don't always feel comfortable with that, so they don't talk about it. And I think with even miscarriage or loss, it's, the baby was never, well, with the miscarriages, right, the baby was never here really. So I think it's kind of like, I don't know why, but it's still such a silent subject. And I just think that, it's loss in general is a hard subject to broach. And I think, but I think it's something that is important and needs to be talked about, because in some point in our lives, we're going to deal with loss at some point, maybe not a miscarriage or an infant loss, but at loss in general. And I told my husband with the miscarriages, like, I didn't want to grieve in silence. I didn't want to act like everything was fine when it wasn't. And I had lost the baby, both times. And because with my miscarriages, I was so early on, I didn't really tell anybody. I told like my mom and my sister, and, even my children didn't know. So it was just, I didn't want it to be like it was some secret that I wasn't letting people know. And I want people to know that they're not alone, and tons of people go through this, but for some reason don't feel always comfortable enough to talk about it.
Yeah, I agree with you there. And I don't know why either, why it's something that isn't talked about
Yeah.
when so many of us go through it, you know?
Right.
Like,
Exactly. Yeah.
we're not the only ones, so,
Right.
you know.
Right. I mean, I found too, even when I did, talk about it and say, I had so many other women come to me and say, like, oh, I've been through this too, and I've been through this too. And I'm like, I never would have known because people don't talk about it.
I had that same thing happen too when I talked about our loss, and so many people
Yeah.
reached out, and I felt the same way. I was like, wow, I never knew.
Right. Right.
So I know you mentioned that you didn't tell a lot of people, but the people that you did tell, did you receive good support from them? Did you have a
I
good
did.
support system?
I did. I do. I definitely have people that are supportive and, were really there to kind of just listen to me and hug me and tell me everything was going to be okay. And so that really helped. Um, it's, it's still hard though too, because with me, I do have two living children. So it's kind of like, well, at least you have them. And that's true. I thank God I have them, but it's still hard because I still did lose two children, and I think
Yeah.
it's hard for people because they think, well, like, think of other people that don't have anybody or don't have any children or don't have this. And I totally understand that. But in a way for me too, I think it's still hard because it's like, I don't know if I feel that guilt of like, I shouldn't be so upset because I have two living children, but I still lost two children. And it's the whole, they would have had two other siblings now. And, and what would have it been like with four children instead of just having the two living children. So
I think that does make it hard. I have two living children as well, and
okay.
I understand exactly what you're saying
Yeah.
because it's like,
Yeah.
well, I am very grateful to have them, but
Of course.
like I still want my other babies, you know? It's like one doesn't
Exactly.
replace the other.
Exactly. Yes, exactly.
So do you have any aspects of loss or infertility in particular that you think need to be talked about more? I mean, I know you said like loss in general and miscarriage in general, but are there
Right.
any other like specific aspects you think need more attention?
Um, so for me, I think it was after the first miscarriage. I don't know if it was because I was 6 weeks and I didn't have a lot of like the normal what they tell you. You'll bleed for 1 to 2 weeks. It's like a heavy period. But after the second miscarriage, I mean, I bled so much longer, but I got no information about kind of what was going to happen after that and with my body and getting back to, I guess, like a regular cycle. And, I even went back to my OB afterwards and said, like, I'm still bleeding. It's been, a few weeks. And it was just, oh, that's normal. That's normal. But, you can try again. And I was kind of like, well, but I couldn't because I kept bleeding, but nobody really told me that would happen. And, after kind of myself researching it, finding that you can, not, bleed for 6 to 8 weeks. And it's, it takes a while to get back into your regular cycle and all these things. And I just don't feel like there's enough information sometimes when you go to your doctor about what's going to happen afterwards, how much time is needed. And, even just miscarriages in general. Like, I don't think that they talk to you enough about the the probability of it happening or that it can happen more than once or because like I think I read somewhere it says like you have a better chance of hitting the lottery than having multiple miscarriages, but I don't feel like that's obviously not the case, especially with talking to lots of people and hearing from other people. That's not the case. And I just don't think there's enough information sometimes given to us about things like miscarriages or infant loss or all the problems that can kind of come along with it. And I understand they don't want to scare you, but I feel like more information needs to be put out there.
I agree. I found so many times where I just was basically like you doing my own research because
Yeah.
I wasn't told anything. And,
Right.
Google can be hit or miss on,
Right.
on the information that
Exactly.
you're researching. But
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
So did you join like any groups or like connect with any other lost families after your loss?
So for me, honestly, Instagram's been great because with your page, there's been other lost pages that I've joined, and that's how I've kind of, you know, connected with other people or seen that other people are going through the same things, the same feelings. Um, I honestly, one of the lost pages is where I found out that you can bleed up to 6 to 8 weeks, where I had no idea. And I didn't know that from my doctor. So um, just pages like that, I think. And like I said, especially your page, just, and I listen to all your podcasts and listening to other women go through these same things that you feel like you're so alone in, that you're not alone in. And so I think that those things have really, really helped, um, just kind of help me, go through the whole feelings and emotions and process of it all.
I think it's hard sometimes. I think, writing your story is hard, but I think
Yes.
sometimes like speaking your story can be harder. And so
Yes.
I think it's, even though it's hard sometimes to do it and to listen to others talking about it, I think it's helpful too. It's like
Yeah.
healing in a way.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I find it much easier to write my story out than to talk about it, but I think it's so important because I think others need to hear it and they need to know that they're not alone in all this.
Do you have any other advice for somebody who's going through either infertility or loss?
Um, I guess my advice would just to be to find support groups, to talk, to cry, to write, to just get all of your feelings out and your emotions out, and just to know that, there's so many people, there's so many other women that have gone through this, couples, everything, and just you're not alone in this process, and to find that support, because I feel like in this grieving process or process, that support is definitely one of the main things that can help you to cope and to get through this, and to know that other people, you know, feel the same way that you do.
So after your losses, did you find like did your husband get support too? Or was he, because I know dads often get, kind of
Yeah.
left out. So
Yeah.
did your husband receive any support?
Um, I think, he did. His family, I mean, our families are great and they are supportive. I just feel like it's so hard because I feel like even myself, I find myself doing it, like not checking in with him enough to make sure that he's okay. He gets the support enough, whereas when it first happens, are you okay? Are you okay? How you doing? But it's the now, the months after, it's like, like I said, I even find myself not checking with him enough. Like, how are you doing? How are you coping with this? Because I think I get stuck in my own grief and I forget to kind of check with him, because and with men, I feel like it's so hard because it's not their bodies that have gone through it, but it's still their child as well. So I think it's probably, I mean, obviously it's way different for him, but it's still the same grief and loss that I experience as well.
Yeah, I think I'm guilty of the same thing sometimes, forgetting to check in
Yeah.
sometimes because I definitely can get stuck in my own grief too,
Yeah.
especially this time of year is hard. The
Yeah.
holidays are hard.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, definitely.
So do you have any like keepsakes or like remembrance items for your baby or anything? For your babies,
Um,
I'm sorry.
oh, it's fine. I did get, for Father's Day, I got a print made for him, and it's just like a picture of a father with two angel babies kind of on his shoulder. So I have that. With the first loss, I didn't have any like ultrasound pictures or anything because it was so early on, but I do have the ultrasound pictures from the second one. So I do have that as well. And but yeah, I guess that's kind of, unfortunately, because they were so early on, I don't really have too much else.
I think that's one thing that makes it so hard with the early losses. I had two early losses as well, and I don't really
Okay.
have anything from,
Yeah.
either of them because
Yeah.
you're so early, you're right. You don't have like the ultrasound pictures like you said. And
Right.
I think sometimes that makes it I mean, you know it's real, but it makes it hard to feel like it really happened.
Right. Yes. Yes. Because I feel like even two people talk about that they got to name their babies, and I didn't get to do any of that because it was still so early on. So I didn't know, gender or anything like that. So that part's hard. Just
That,
kind of not
yeah,
knowing. Yeah.
I don't know on mine either. It was too
Yeah.
early. And
Yeah.
sometimes I wish I knew, but
Right.
obviously there's no way to know now.
No. Right. Right. Exactly.
So, do you have anything else that you want to share or add?
Um, just that, I want people to know that there is this support, and there is this wonderful community, and that you're never alone, and to always reach out to people. And you'd be surprised, I think, on the support that you would get, or finding that there's so many other women that have gone through this that you just don't know about. But definitely to find the support and find these groups in this community, because it's such a wonderful thing to help with coping with all of this grief and loss.
Yeah, it's like that club. I've seen it written so many times that, none of us ever wanted to be part of, but like we're so
Yes.
grateful to have it when we have to join it.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Because I feel like, you know, that's helped me day to day, just going on to these pages and seeing that all these people are going through the same thing. It makes you just not feel so lonely.
I agree. I know, like, even with support, loss can be so lonely.
Yeah.
Even if you have all these people around you, it's just like it
Yeah.
feels so isolating. And
Yes,
it's
definitely.
it's not like nice to know other people are going through it, but it's like
Right.
nice to know people understand you, I guess.
Exactly. And that's what I think it is. I think it's the understanding that people understand those emotions and those feelings the same exact way that you're going through them.
It's like you feel not judged by it, like other
Yes.
people who haven't been through it don't understand.
Right. Yes, exactly. Yes, I totally agree with that.
Well, I want to thank you for coming and taking the time to share your story today.
Yes, thank you so much. And thank you for having me on, because, like I said, this has really, really helped.
And good luck on your fertility treatment. I really hope
Thank
that the
you.
letrozole is all you need.
Yes, let's hope so. So thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you, Kristin, for sharing your story with us. I wanted to go ahead and touch on another thing that she mentioned about people telling her just to be grateful for the living kids she has. This comment really gets under my skin. Why would people think that just because we have living children that we don't also want the children we lost? They're independent of each other. They're all our children. We want them all here. Sometimes having living children even heightens the loss emotions because we see everything that we should be having with the babies who aren't here. This is just one of those comments I wish people would stop saying. Stop dismissing our experiences and our emotions. Stop dismissing our babies that aren't here. Let us grieve for them. Know that they are our babies, just as much as the living ones. We love all of them equally. And if you have living kids and you've been through loss, know that it's okay to grieve your babies. You can be grateful for the ones you have and still miss the ones that are gone. Grief does not make you any less grateful. And it certainly doesn't mean that you don't love your living children. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. Thank you so much for tuning in, and remember, we are all in this together.